So today's talk, we're going to have a little bit of split talk. Aneka Sweeney, our Education Outreach Coordinator, who I'll let her further introduce herself, is going to start off today by talking about water quality trends in Whatcom County. And then myself, Nicole Embertson, Science and Planning Coordinator at the Whatcom Conservation District, I'm going to follow up with some of the research projects that have been going on in the county, highlighting some of our big ones that we've been doing I'll show you about half a dozen or so that you know what's going on, and if you want to get further involved in some of those, you'll have the opportunity to do so. So we'll start with Aneka and get you going.
Great. So yeah, thank you all for being here today. Again, I'm Aneka Sweeney, Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Whatcom Conservation District, and I do not work directly in water quality, but I was asked to just kind of summarize what we've got going, what is the current monitoring strategy here in Whatcom County, what trends that we're seeing, and how you all can access that information. So I hope to talk through that today, and if you have any questions at the end, I think Nicole and I will both be up here to answer any questions that you have. So feel free to jot them down, and then we'll get to them later. So Whatcom County, an incredibly beautiful place. We've got Mount Baker starting at the top of the Nooksack watershed, moving down through our foothills. We enjoy our recreation. We have agriculture of all different sorts. We have our cities. We have our kids that play along our, everybody knows where this is. Who can tell me where this is? This is a test. This is a test. It is Linden City Park, and this is Fish Trap Creek that runs right through the middle of it. And it has ample salmon runs. Kids from all over Whatcom County come to this creek, and it's also one of the 91 monthly sampling locations in Whatcom County. So just to give you an idea of like what some of those look like. As our creeks run down into the ocean, they meet our beaches where we enjoy recreation as well. We have our marine mammals and also our shellfish harvesters. So as we think about water quality trends here in Whatcom County, there's a lot to consider. And specifically, I'm going to be talking about fecal coliform bacteria monitoring. So with all that diversity that we've got in Whatcom County, there's a tremendous amount of diversity in sources of fecal coliform, or sources of poop. Let's just say what it is. That's what it is. That's impacting our downstream waters, and as those streams meet the bay, we're having some issues with the farming ability of our shellfish. So that's really driving a lot of the sampling that's taking place here in Whatcom County. So with a diverse amount of sources, there has to be a very diverse sampling regime. So here is the majority of Whatcom County that's sampled presently through Whatcom County Public Works does the sampling. In addition, WSDA does some as well, and Department of Ecology, but these are the ambient. So this happens every month on a scheduled time. It's not based on rain, not based on anything else, and then these numbers above, like Drayton Harbor Watershed has 31 monthly sampling sites. So those are the routine sites that are sampled consistently. Nooksack Watershed has 19, Terrell Creek and the Birch Bay area, 15, and then we have, or actually these are a lot of the coastal drainages that go into Birch Bay, and then 12 here in North Chuckanut. And those locations also drain into strategic shellfish growing areas. Drayton Harbor, Birch Bay, Portage Bay here, and then Mud Bay and where Chuckanut Bay is. So those are the strategic locations that they've determined that sampling for freshwater is vitally important. So along with those ambient or monthly sampling efforts, there are focus areas. So 34 other stations in Drayton Harbor, 25 in the Nooksack. And when we talk about focus areas or bracket sampling, this is just an example. So here's somebody doing monitoring. We got 2 creeks that are coming into a main stem. We would sample here, sample there, in order to characterize the watersheds on either side. So that would be how focus area monitoring might take place. Additionally, there's sort of incident sampling. If we get an observation from a citizen, or as these samplers are going out and they see really cloudy water or muddy water coming in, they might take a sample there in order to characterize what's going on, why there would be a change in water color. And one thing I don't have a slide up is the people who are doing those sampling. So Whatcom County Public Works paid staff, we've got some volunteers that help out with that. We have Hans right here was a volunteer in the city of Linden. We're always looking for volunteers to help out with some of this sampling. But mostly it's staff members from Whatcom County Public Works, WSDA, and Department of Ecology that are doing that. So we sample, we send those water samples to a lab, and then they're analyzed based on 2 different freshwater standards. And this is pretty technical, but there's a geometric mean or an average of samples over time that will meet that standard, or the 90th percentile. Both of these standards have to be met in order for a stream to meet the freshwater standard for recreational contact. So, to summarize what's going on in the Nooksack River watershed, which flows into Portage Bay, one of those critical shellfish growing areas. So this is going to be the average from November 2014 to October 2017. So this is just until, this was summarized just last month. And these bars along the bottom are all the different sampling locations, right? Of all those that we said, we have 91 over the whole county. So this is just in the Nooksack River watershed. So these are sampling locations. These are the tributaries to the Nooksack, and then the main stem of the Nooksack is over here. These bars indicate that average over the last 3 years. And you can see those that are orange, those are that are not meeting that standard. And the health standard is here, this red line. So 13 out of the 19 sites are meeting the standard, which is great news. And then if you notice these black diamonds, so those diamonds are the results or the average over the last year. So if those diamonds are below the bar, like in this instance, in this instance, in this instance, that means in the last year, those sites have seen an improvement in water quality over the last year as compared to the 3-year average. So what we're seeing is, over the last 3 years, we're seeing 16 out of 19 stations are improving within the Nooksack River watershed. So that's an 84% improvement just in the last year, so October 2016 to October 2017. And 3 out of those 19 are declining. But we're still seeing the trend is a great improvement over this last year. So I think this is a very telling graph. So now we're looking at, this is marine water quality. And you've got the Portage Bay growing area here. So this is Portage Island, the Lummi Peninsula is Lummi Island here. And these are the marine water quality sampling sites. The Nooksack River comes into that area, swirls around in the currents of Bellingham Bay, and sort of sets here in these really low tidal areas, which is really great for shellfish harvesting. So now along the bottom of this graph, these are dates starting in, this is 1993 on this left side, and 2017 over here on the right side. And then this is the concentration of fecal coliform. So as you can see, in the late 90s, early 2000s, we had some issues. There was huge spikes and lows, and it was just all over the map as far as fecal coliform. Then there were some big changes that took place. The Dairy Nutrient Management Act, we had sewer plant upgrades, sewer infrastructure upgrades, and we just started to see a great decrease in the amount of fecal coliform bacteria that they were finding in these coastal areas. So then you can see from about 2004 to 2014, those 10 years, the shellfish growing areas had apparently, seemingly great water quality below the standard, so they were able to harvest during that time. And then as you can see, right around 2014, we started to see that trend going up. Pretty significantly, and scared that it might follow this same trend over here. And so there's been a lot of action within a lot of different communities to go and tackle a lot of those sources that I showed before. It's pet waste, it's agricultural waste, it's septic systems, It's a variety of different things, and there's a bunch of community members and agencies really trying to tackle all those issues. And the folks in this room, I know, are aware of that. And look how, in the last 3 years, we've started to see an improvement in that water quality there in the bay. So that trend is going further down. So I think it's great news. So thank you for all your hard work. That's the first thing I want to say. And then I hope that these trends continue as we move forward. And some successes that I'd like to just point out specifically is in December of 2016, so almost a year ago, Drayton Harbor, which is also a shellfish growing area, both commercial and recreational, opened 810 acres of shellfish growing that had been closed previously because the fecal coliform levels had gotten to a point where they could open that. So this is great news in the Drayton Harbor watershed. Additionally, probably in January of 2018, we're going to be announcing that Birch Bay and the mouth of Terrell Creek will also be opening for shellfish harvest because we've also monitored the water quality there and have found that community members are making solutions happen and the water quality is improving. And we hope to see that same thing happen in Portage Bay. So we just need to keep up the good work that everybody's doing, and that, you know, the nutrient management training that we'll be having in January is we'll introduce great tools. Nicole's going to talk a little bit about that today as well. But I think that these sort of trends and these success stories is what we really need to be building momentum on, and I just was excited to share that with you all today. So where can you find this data? Do you want to find this data? It's a little bit complicated. There's a couple ways you can find it, and we're hoping that this works. So there's an interactive water quality map. Dun, da, da, da. Oh, look at that. Oh, is it not showing it? Oh boy, here we go. Let's see if it works here, because it's not matching it.
It's got it on split screen.
Oh, it's got it on split screen. Oh, I thought that we had worked on that before. Stand by. But you know what? I'll just show the slides because we've got those too. And then there's a handout that I'm going to give you anyway. So, where you can get this data is, would you mind passing those back? And then I've got this side. So this is introducing our online water quality maps that all of the data that's being collected is being summarized into this wonderful format that I would love to show you online, but apparently it's not working. And so these are then the web addresses that you can go. So the Whatcom County website has it, and then this is the direct link to these. And it's as real time as it can be. So these are the preliminary bacterial results. They have not gone through extensive QA/QC to ensure that those results are worthy of putting into a large lab results. But is all of these dots are relative to the concentration of fecal coliform bacteria, but it's only showing colors on those samples that were taken in the last 2 weeks. So it's only showing the most recent results in the colors. And then as the concentration increases, so does the size of the dot, and the color of the dot becomes more red. And we, obviously used stoplight characteristics in order to exemplify that. If you're interested in a single station, if you're like, oh boy, I've got a big red dot upstream from me, that's a little bit interesting, I wonder what's going on there, you can click directly on it, and it will bring up the attributes of that site, so the station name, the description, when it was last sampled, what the result was during that sampling period, and then what type and who took it. Then additionally, if you click on this all water quality results, it will show all of the results that have ever been put into our system for that site. And those are also downloadable. Additionally, if you're not used to looking at a map in this context, you can click on some of these features up here. You can change it so it looks at it's an aerial behind it, so you can really find out where this sample location has taken place. And then you can download all of the data from the bottom of the map as well. And this info button right here, when you're interacting with the map, gives you all of that information. It runs through how to access this map in the best way possible. And that's it for me. So I'll have my contact information up here, but I'm going to be passing it off to Nicole for the remainder of the period.
Any quick questions for Aneka before she steps away in regards to that?
I was seeing some dots up in Canada. Are we taking several?
So we aren't, but there's a nonprofit organization, Langley Environmental Partnership, that is taking some samples up in the Bertrand and Fish Trap area and then allowing us to put those on our map, which is great. Yeah. And that's just recent, so we don't have a tremendous amount of history with them.
There's a lot more work going up in Canada. I think a lot of it due to farmers and others voicing the concerns there, and our local agencies trying to get more connection with Canada and getting more samples up there and more awareness. So that's something that is increasing, and I think you should take a little bit of credit for that as a community for vocalizing your concerns and getting that moving locally. Yeah.